The journey is conversations with ordinary people about stories of transformation and how we may have had setbacks in our life and how we persevered through those, how we've learned from those obstacles, and how they've maybe helped us on our path today. Well, welcome to the journey. Today we have a special guest with us, Lillian Tyrrell. I had the good fortune to meet Lillian a few, maybe even up to 2 months ago now, through a mutual friend of ours, actually a former guest on the journey, Teresa Gasser, or sometimes referred to as Tammy Gasser, and she's been on the journey a couple times. And I remember the day that I got a text from her, and I thought there was something wrong. She was like, I need you to text me as soon as possible. And I was like, oh goodness, what's going on? And then when I had a break, she then told me, I have somebody I want you to meet. I just saw her the other day, and I think you guys, it'll be real important for you to meet her. And and it has been, because there are some things that you've introduced to me that have now become part of my daily and weekly routine, as well as the new counseling agency and wellness center. We've incorporated some of the things that we're going to get into as well. So Lillian, welcome to the journey, and I look forward to you being here and having this conversation.
I'm so excited to be here, Kevin. And yeah, Tammy, when she told me about you, I was like, because all of this is new, right? So I was like, she said, I need to get you to talk to Kevin. And I think it'd be great for him to, interview you or whatever. And I thought, no, I don't do that. That's not me. But I think it's something that is important because of what I've been through in the last 4 years, 2 years. Um, well, 4 years total, and the last 2 years have been just a journey for me of self-discovery, of figuring out who I am, why I do what I do, like we were talking earlier, and who do I do it for? And at the end of the day, it's my relationship with the Lord. And I've always said, I don't know how anybody can get through the pain, the stress that goes with caretaking for someone that you love, and then losing them, and then how do you how do you how do you use everything that you've learned about the Lord, um, as practical tools in your walk with the Lord? And he either is who he says he is, or he's not. And he has proven to me that he is. And he will open doors that you never expected and push you to things that you never thought you could do, like this, because I am so not a person behind the mic or in front of a camera. I'm very happy just being obscure and in the background and helping and putting people that love to do that out front. But the Lord had other plans, I guess, and at least with you. So here I am.
Well, and I do think, without a doubt, that at least in my life, if I want to have, and I do desire to have that conscious contact and consciousness of a relationship with God and relationship with Jesus, then I'm going to be stretched, because it's part of the process of growth and development is being stretched, and just no different than development physically. We know that if we want to become stronger, that we have to increase resistance, or add a new exercise in. And there's always a learning curve, and it's always awkward and uncomfortable at first, and then the growth comes not only when we do that, but then also in the healing and recovery process.
Mhm.
And I think it's a similar template for mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. So,
Yeah.
well, Lillian, thank you for being here. So one of the things I always start off with, just so that people kind of get to know the whole Lillian, but Lillian, what do you do for fun? If you have an opportunity to have fun, and even this morning, I know that you've had a couple obstacles just even this morning, but what do you do for fun when the obstacles may not be as apparent? So,
I'm big into music. I think that was the common Well, I met Michael backstage at a concert. So I've always been, and being Latin, I tell people that I was dancing when I was in my mom's womb. I mean, that's what we do as Latinas, as Hispanics. Music, and by nature, we're like, it's all about family and laughter and closeness. And so as a little girl, whenever I was stressed out or scared, I would just put music on and dance. So I love to dance. So I'll put on it. I mean, and I am just all over the place is what I like, music that I like. I'm so eclectic in everything that I choose. But traveling and dancing and listening to music is usually um the things that I love to do. Spending time with my family. The older I get, the more I realize those moments are precious and not to waste those moments. And when I'm with them, to be present, try not to be on my phone as much. I always tell people, take pictures with your eyes and store them here in your heart. That's your hard drive. Um, and so yeah, traveling and music and dancing, those are the things I love to do.
Awesome, awesome.
And going to
So
good restaurants.
yeah. So Lillian, yeah, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you're in Florida now, but where are you from? And tell us a little bit about your family and your family of origin. And yeah, tell us a little bit about
Well,
that
my
stuff.
mom and dad came over from Colombia, South America, in the late 50s. Um, all of us kids were born here in the United States, New Jersey. They landed when my parents came over. They went to New York, and my dad started working. I love they are like the story of the immigrant family that came and really worked hard because they believed in the American dream. My dad would tell us stories of, because my mom and dad eloped,
Mm.
which I love the story. It's so romantic. I'm like, oh, it's just like a movie. My mom and dad eloped. Um, they got married on a Sunday morning. Dad walked my mom to the bus stop. She got on the bus and went home right after church, after they got married. And my dad came to the United States the next day. So they had no honeymoon, no nothing. They weren't even together after they got married. She went back home. He came to the United States. He worked 3 jobs in New York. He had like this little one room with just one. He said it was just, I guess you call them studios or something. It was just one little stove top and the bathroom and a bed, and that's it, one room. Worked 3 jobs. He lived on Coca-Cola and Twinkies. Coca-Cola and Twinkies. He said, I would just, because I wanted to save as much money as I could to bring your mother over. He brought her over. Year and a half later, they worked hard. They raised us 3 kids with family values and hard work ethic. And anything is possible if you work for it. And always family. You just lean on your family. So every once in a while, my Jersey accent will come out. I thought I lost it, but when I say coffee or something like that, it'll come out. But yeah, I'm Jersey. Um, and so I went to high school. I'm the oldest of 3, and went to right after high school. My parents decided to move to Florida. It was 1978. Moved to Florida, and I came to Florida kicking and screaming. But now you'll never get me out of Florida. I love it. I've been back to New Jersey. I love my friends and everything there, but I'm a Florida girl, and I met my husband here in 1986. He was playing for a band called Marlon Lefevre and Broken Heart, which in the 80s was a big Christian contemporary music band. They got Grammys and Dove Awards, and my husband was the guitar player for it. And my sister and her husband, through their church, they had what they call runners for the bands when they are in a city. And my brother-in-law and my sister were helping the band, taking them around. And they met Michael, and he said, next time I'm in town, I'll get you guys a ticket and I'll bring you an extra one. And it's so funny because she always says that she's the one that set me and Michael up, because he was talking to her, and my brother-in-law had gone to play, I guess, golf with the rest of the band. Michael was not a golfer. He was more into health and wellness, and he wanted to go. Back then, there was no Whole Foods. There was a different, I think it was called Chamberlain's in Orlando, and he's like, I would love to go to a health food store. So my sister goes, oh, okay, I'll take you. So they started talking. At the end of the day, um, my sister said that he looked at her and said, gosh, I wish you had a sister, and then she said, well, I do. And 3 months later, she asked me to come to a concert. She didn't tell me any of this till that much after. I went to, or else I probably wouldn't have gone. So I went to the concert and met him backstage. And before emails or iPhones or anything like that, it was long letters and phone calls when he would get off the road. And we met in September, got engaged in December, got married 6 months later, and we were married for 35 years. So been through a lot. He played in different bands, and he was a pastor for a while. We both helped pastor here in South Florida. We got called. We were all over the place. We were in North Carolina. We were in Nashville. We were here. Back up to, it was everywhere in the South. We lived in different places, and we got the call to come down to Florida in 1994 to serve at a church here in Fort Lauderdale. And my husband was worship and youth pastor. We did that for a few years, and then he played with other worship leaders. He played for a while with Jason Upton, and then he played with Rick Pino for a little while, and then he did his own thing, recorded a few CDs, and then we embarked in 2015. He launched Wholetones because his desire was always to help people, always see them thrive, be healed emotionally and physically. I come now to see that his desire to give out so much and to see people happy was probably something that maybe he was needing or had struggled with, maybe. Um, his story was much different than mine. Um, I never, my parents are happily married till my dad passed 3 years ago. They celebrated 64 years together. Um, I always had that sense of safety, seeing the love that my mom and dad had. Um, and I never felt like scared that they wouldn't be together, because I think that's important in a child when they're growing up. Have that sense of like mom and dad are okay. Um, Michael didn't have that. He had a very loving mother, um, but it was kind of a hard thing for him growing up. He comes from a divorced home. His father was in World War II. His father suffered from, they called it shell shock back then, but I guess it's PTSD now.
Right.
So that's the home Michael was came up in, and he did the best that he could. And his mom did everything that she could. She was basically a single mom for a while, um, but God redeemed it all, and Michael came to know the Lord in 1984, and in 1986, like I said, we met, and together we just wanted to do something to help others. He was always about paying back, always about paying forward, and taught me that too. And he was charismatic, and he was the one in front of the camera, and he was very talented in every way, and he came up with Wholetones, and to help people with anxiety and depression and loneliness and sleeplessness and all of these issues that I realize is probably stuff that he dealt with his whole life, and that he wanted people to just be able to be healed through music, which was his love. And it's the one modality that crosses every age barrier, every nationality. It doesn't require to know a language, especially just music without lyrics. So, and it works on our cellular level, frequency, and I'm learning as I'm going. One of the things that I used to say is like, no, that's your lane. You are the researcher. And I used to call him, you're the sound geek. I'm not. I will cook and go listen to my music over there. And I mean, I love everything we're doing. I believe in it, but I don't need to know all the ins and outs. You do that. I wish I would have listened more now, because now I'm like, oh no, I've got to learn all this now.
Well, it's so funny that you say that, Lillian, because Diane and I have been together for 32 years. We just celebrated
Oh,
our 30th wedding anniversary, and she would say early on, is like, no, I don't like people. I don't like listening to people. I choose an artist, and so I'll just do my art. I'm the behind the scenes person. Like, even like literally, I would be. Back when she was working with a theater company, she was running backstage for the theater, or for the shows, for the musicals, and I was helping in the front with character development, or having the audience participate
yeah.
in meeting the characters, and talking about what their role was. And now she still does her artwork, but now she's working as a personal trainer. And I'm like, Diane, you're doing the same thing that I'm doing. You just happen to be doing it in a fitness way, versus I'm doing it sitting down. And
Right.
she goes, well, I could never do what you do sitting down all the time. I'm like, you're doing it all day long, just moving. So it is funny.
It's, I used to bodybuild back in
Oh,
the early 80s.
really?
I forgot to
Yeah.
tell you that.
Yeah.
So when I was in Florida, I was starting to get interested in some, just going to the gym and doing that. And then one of the guys was a, what do you call, power lifter?
Yep.
And then he was switching from powerlifting and he was going to our church. And I went to his gym, and I didn't realize, he's like, you've got the physical, I guess, muscularity to really do well in bodybuilding. So we started training for fun. And then everybody at the gym was like, you guys need to compete, like doing together. So
Couples,
we start,
couples.
yeah, couples. And, but then I met Michael. And then I remember one night, Michael looked at me and he goes, promise not to get mad. And I'm like, yeah. And he said, kind of having a hard time um, dating a girl whose arms are bigger than my legs, because he was a skinny rocker, right? So he was just like long black hair, really skinny. That was, I mean, glam rock. That's what he was about. And meanwhile, I'm like
Hmm.
walking around hanging out with all the guys that are and the girls that are lifting weights and stuff. So, but I have put into place some stuff, and you probably heard it in training. One of the guys used to say to me, there is no failure, because I would get frustrated, like if I couldn't do something. And then he goes, no, 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 there is no failure. He said, actually, failure is your friend in bodybuilding. And I was like, how does that? What do you mean? He said, because you want to push to failure. When you cannot pick one more, you cannot do one more rep, you can't do one more pound. He said, your muscles are completely spent. That's good. And then you have to rest so that they will recover, and then you'll get stronger. So failure will make you stronger. And I thought, oh, failure will make you stronger. I have used that so much. I had forgotten about it for years. But in the last couple of months, whenever I'm challenged and I figure out, I don't know if I can do this, I just don't want to be a failure. Immediately I think, no, failure will make you stronger. There is no failure. Don't fear failure. And I've just been saying that I cannot fear failure. It'll just make me stronger. So I have to just continue trying. So it's funny how you put in place things that you learned for one thing, and then God will use it for something else. Never, and they have nothing to do with each other.
Well, and I was just recently talking with someone about the idea, and I've talked about it numerous times on the show with athletics, is that I was I was very fortunate to start competing as a teenage bodybuilder, and my first show was in 1984. And so I was very fortunate that during that window of time I competed in 16, 17 different shows. And because I was so young and there wasn't that many teenage bodybuilders, and I was training with older men, I had advantages over other teenage competitors. And
Mhm.
so I won the teenage Mr. Illinois in 86 and the Mr. USA in 87. And then when I went into the 88 nationals, I was ranked or favored to win. And I ended up having made some mistakes in our diet and ended up losing too much muscle and over dieted essentially.
Yeah.
Because of that ambition to want to win, I over trained and over dieted and ended up getting sixth place. And it was the only time that I didn't medal or didn't place.
Mm.
I don't know which one, and I never ended up winning another overall title again. But I don't know what I learned more when I won the title, my national title, or when I lost. Um, that year. I don't know which time I learned more. I know that it's been an ongoing process because, those trophies are underneath my basement stairs.
Mhm.
My kids have only seen them a couple times in their
Yeah.
life. Um, it's what I learned from them is the stories I tell now and I still utilize now more so than the story of, you know, when I won or anything like that. So I think to your point, I think that is part of the journey is that we, it's what we learn along the way. I mean, I remember the summer after I won the Teenage Illinois, it was right after I graduated from high school and I went on, um, that following year to train for that. But 3 months before, um, 3 plus months before I met the guy who was going to train me for that show. It happened to be on the same day because I was raised Lutheran, and that morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, whatever, a buddy of mine called me up and says, "I'm getting baptized today." And I'm like, "What do you mean you're getting baptized today? What does that mean?" He
Yeah.
goes, "Well, I'm going to get baptized today." And I said, and he goes, "I want you to come and I want you to pick up Karen, his girlfriend at the time." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Still had no clue, and it was this house church that
Yeah.
and so I went there and I listened to the sermon, don't remember anything about what the sermon was saying. And and then afterwards, the pastor came up to us because, you know, talking to Rich and then introduced me and stuff like that. He looked at me and goes, "Well, do you want to get baptized?" And my first response was, "Well, no." In my mind, I'm going to meet this guy that's going to train me in about 90 minutes. And I
Mm.
didn't want to go
Yeah.
wet.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so he said fine as he turned and left, and I still clearly remember him walking away and over uh, this overpowering feeling of go stop him, you need to get baptized today.
Mm.
So I stopped him and I said, "Yeah, I'll take you up on it. Yes, I will." And um and I had always had a relationship, had always knew about when the stories were told to me about Jesus and about God, they were stories that felt like they weren't for the first time,
Mhm.
or they were stories of like, oh, okay. There was never a questioning. There was never, especially when I was a young person, they were just this. They were just okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And so when I took that next step in my spiritual development, um, it was it was life changing on multiple levels. That afternoon, I met Craig, who was training me. I started a new routine, started a new diet the next day, and for the next 3 plus months, I was getting ready for that show. I started going to a different church that we met Sunday morning, Sunday night. On Wednesdays, I was getting introduced. I probably was listening to Michael with some of the music because I got that
Probably in the
because
80s.
that time period was when I was first introduced to that um, non-mainstream worship music, and
Right.
it just seemed to be coming onto the scene more popular,
Mhm.
and so it was a very powerful time period for me in my spiritual development. It was the first time that I had uh, experienced it was phrased to me and taught to me that that was the Holy Spirit. Um, I didn't know that I'd experienced that before, and I definitely didn't experience it like I had now that I knew what was going on. And
Yeah.
it was a pretty, um, yeah, pretty powerful time. And the music, um, I was working construction at the time, and so I would work construction during the day and then train at night for the show. And I'm around all these guys that were on the construction site. They'd be smoking weed on the job. They were swearing all the time. And I had a little Walkman headphones that I would put on, and all I listened to over and over were these cassettes of Petra and these different Christian bands at the time, and just so that I could kind of insulate myself from everything that was going on around, because I was trying so hard to
Yeah.
come into this new lifestyle.
Well, I'm sure if you were listening to Petra, they were all like they did all summer concerts and everything, and it was Broken Heart, Marlon Lafette, Broken Heart, and Petra, and Barren Cross, White Cross, all these different bands and stuff. Amy Grant, Twyla Paris, all those people back in the 80s. Yeah, that's what I was listening to. And yeah, no, I totally, yeah, I get it. I was raised Catholic, being,
Yeah.
Hispanic.
Yeah.
Um, and being New Jersey, you were either Jewish, Catholic, I don't, and Protestant. Those are I mean, like everybody that was not Catholic or Jewish just got lumped into like the Protestant folder up
Mhm.
in New Jersey. So as a little girl, I was either like, if you're not Catholic, then you're either Jewish or Protestant. And I didn't even know what that was. Um, Through a series of things, in the 70s and early 80s during the disco era and all of that, being in the New York area and then coming down to Florida and being near the Miami area, so much of the negative influences of that era were all around me as a teenager, early 20s. Um, but I was able to stay clear of, like, I didn't do any drugs. I didn't do anything like that when I was growing up. It's so funny. Because of that safety that I had from my father growing up, he said something to me one day. I was getting ready to go out and he looked at me and he goes, "Have fun." And I said, "Thanks, Daddy." And then he goes, "Come here a second." And I walked over and he goes, "You carry my name, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "My blood runs through your veins. Whatever you do, remember, you represent me. And if you do something that is not right, everything that I worked for to be a man of honor, be a man of integrity, um, you'll drag me down with you." And I remember thinking, oh, okay. So I had such a strong love for my dad and such and respect, and I wasn't afraid of him, but I was afraid to disappoint him. I wasn't afraid of what he would do. Like, he wouldn't do anything to me, but I couldn't bear to smudge anything that he did, because I knew how hard he had worked to get to where he had been, to where he was, and to give us the life that he gave us when and we weren't rich by any stretch of imagination. I mean, I think he worked and it was week to week, month to month. But we never saw lack. I mean, I thought I was rich as a little girl. Now looking back, I go, wow, we were like middle to low middle. But he never made us feel that way. We never knew that. And he always made me feel like there was nothing that I couldn't achieve. And so I stayed out of that whole pull to do drugs, late 70s. It was like everything was about cocaine and partying. It was Studio 54 days, you know. It was the time where Queen was huge, and all Freddie Mercury, and it was just nothing but partying. And I went down and I danced and look, because I said I like music. So I would go to the discos, I would go to the clubs. I knew the people. I was in surroundings where all the negative things were easily accessible. I mean, I look back now and I know that God's hand was on me, because I went to parties in Miami that you only see in movies, um, and surrounded by stuff like that. And my friends at the time were doing things, and I was just like, I'm not going to have, because in the back of my head, my father was like sitting there going, remember whose daughter you are. he used to say, remember whose daughter you are. You carry my name. Fast forward, well, I went through some depression. I went through some, I think, as we're growing and trying to figure out who we are, because I felt like I didn't belong in this group or that group. I went through some self-searching, and that kind of pushed me to the Lord. Um, and through a whole, that's a whole nother story. It was the day of the TV evangelist, and I would put it on just to make fun of them. But what the Lord says, that his word will not come back void, even though I would put it on just to make fun of them, especially watching the lady with all of mascara running down her face and everything, in those days. I was like, I'm not, I I don't even understand why people like this are on TV. But I remember one night I was so desperate. They said, if you just send any offering and anything, we'll send you a Bible. I never had a Bible, being raised Catholic. Bibles were just for the priests. Us normal people didn't understand the Bible. We're too stupid to understand what the word of God is. That's what they made us, or kind of hinted to us. And I went ahead and got a Bible, and it was 1980. It was like 1980, and I got a Bible sent to me, and I remember reading it. I go, no, I don't understand any of this, and I put it away for a couple of years. I didn't, and I got, stuff happened, and 2 years later, I got saved through a bunch of things. I went to church. People just kept coming into and talking about God to me. All of a sudden, I knew that God was chasing me. God was coming after me. It was, we'd see, I don't know if you remember Keep on Trucking, with Jesus. You'd have the guy with
Yep.
the finger up. And
Yep.
so you'd see those signs, and Jesus is the way and everything. And I'd be like looking all over, go, is everybody like a Christian now? Well, that's because all of a sudden it's awareness. I was aware, and I was starting to see things. In 1982, I got saved, and I remember thinking, I have a Bible somewhere. Well, 2 years earlier, that Bible that I had gotten sent to me from people I was making fun of, I opened it up, and I was using that. And that was, I know now that it was my love for my dad, and the way that he raised me, and the way that he treated it. I gleaned from that, and I could accept the Lord as a loving father. And now same thing. I don't want to ever do anything, because I carry his name. The blood of Jesus is now mine. So the same words that my dad said, and he wasn't even a Christian. He was just my dad. He didn't come to know the Lord till in the 80s too. He was in his 40s, 50s when he came to know the Lord. So it's fun. I see the impact that has. And I think if I can do anything in my, now, is to share with others, because I've seen both sides. My husband, he used to say he came into our marriage with a whole luggage set of baggage, and I came in with a wallet. And the problem with that, and we used to laugh about that, the problem with that is, like, if you do that, then learn to travel light. Start releasing some of that luggage and that baggage. I didn't know enough to, I think we just start filling our life with things that we love to do, and then forget that we're still carrying a lot of luggage with us, and a lot of baggage. And I think that could be, and if I can help anybody, it's to tell my story of how I've worked through things, how God has become real, how he's weaved into my life, brought people into my life. We attract people into our life, which now I understand frequency. Whatever we give, we're going to receive. It's biblical. Some people call it New Age. It's not. It's Ancient of Days. People say, oh, it's the New Age. And a lot of Christians, I think, out of fear, translates a little, sometimes ignorance. And ignorance isn't a bad word. It just means not informed, right? So I think people, and if I can do anything and help people, is to understand that as we walk as Christians, not only do we have the power of God behind us, but He's given us all things pertaining to life and God. If we understand what all things are, it's like he is opening the miracle, the mysteries of the universe to us. But sometimes we're so afraid of it because maybe another group of people have used them or misrepresented them in some way, that they put the stamp of devil on it, or not God or whatever. And then we short ourselves of walking in such miraculous, powerful things. And that's what I've realized through Wholetones and through our study of frequency and what we how God created us. And when he says, as a man thinks, so is he, that we create, not that we are gods, because we're not, but that we can create the environment around us by what we believe, what we do, how we treat others, because as you give out, you will receive. What you sow, you're going to reap back. So that's financial, that's in relationships, that's in everything. So I'm learning. I'm realizing at my age, there's so much that I didn't know, and I have seen a lot. So much I don't know. And it's so
Yeah.
exciting to take this journey of life.
Yeah, very, very much so. Well, I want us to jump in a little bit and talk about whole tones for a
Mhm.
moment. And I know when we first met, you told me, Michael's story, you told me about whole tones. And so then, I just, went on YouTube and I started looking up the sample. Actually went to the website first, went to some samples, and then you sent me Michael's book that he wrote on it. And I've read it once. I need to reread it because it was pretty dense with some things that I didn't necessarily understand. And
Wow.
so, not that it was written in a way that it was too deep, it was just that I wasn't familiar with it. And
Right.
so I need to reread it from that aspect of it. But what I've been doing is I've been utilizing um, the the music during my quiet time, my meditation time. And so I've been playing that during that time, sometimes when I'm driving, sometimes when I'm getting ready in the morning. Um, I have noticed over the last 6 weeks of doing that, it enhances it. I've noticed an enhancement of that time period. I've noticed that when I get to the second track, because I just listened to them in the row, something that there's a different clarity of thinking when
Mhm.
I get to the second track. Almost consistently when I get to the second track. Now, some may argue that maybe that's when the coffee kicks in at 5:15 in the morning. I'm attributing more to the second track. But so tell us a little bit about excuse me, a little bit about whole tones. I know that I've recognized, a benefit already. I've gotten a lot of feedback from clients that have come to the new office because I'm using the meditation speaker for our waiting room, and I'm waiting for the nature one to come in so I can flip
Mhm.
them back and forth. But tell us a little bit about whole tones and the essence of that as we transition in this episode.
So the genesis of Wholetones, everything, but one thing builds on the other. Actually, the birthplace of Wholetones, really, we go back to the times of King David. Um, but it was in Israel. My husband always um, had a desire, like I said, to use music, and he always believed that the music was so powerful. He didn't understand why or how it all, but he just knew that you could bring people to tears, or you could bring get agitated, aggravated, or excited. There was just all these things, and it doesn't even really have to do with the genre of music. I mean, believe it or not, if I'm stressed out, I know it's going to sound shocking to people. Sometimes I listen to heavy metal. I'm still a rocker. I mean, like I'm a little bit of a metalhead,
Yeah.
but I'll listen to some heavy metal, and it'll bring it. It used to bring me like some calming. So we would talk about music and how it works and everything. Well, on a trip to Israel, one time back in the early 90s, I remember him. I didn't go with him. He went with our pastor in Nashville, and he came back so excited. He had met this person. The Lord had started talking to him about frequencies, frequencies, frequencies. Check, the power of music, power of music. He goes to Israel. He goes to this coffee house, and there's so much supernatural things that happened during this trip. Our pastor told Michael, get up. They were in Jerusalem. We're going to go to this not messianic, I'm sorry, Orthodox coffee shop. And Michael said, okay. He goes, what are we doing there? And he goes, I'm going to go meet my friend from Tel Aviv. We're going to meet there. And he goes, oh, he knows we're coming. He goes, no. He goes, oh, okay. How are we going to meet him there? He goes, the Lord just told me to go. He's going to be there. So they go to this coffee house. They sit down. It's an Orthodox coffee house in Jerusalem. And they sit down, and there's a guy at a piano playing, and Michael and Pastor Don are sitting there having coffee. And Michael realizes what he's listening to is hymns, Christian hymns, at an Orthodox Christian coffee house. And Michael looked at Don. He goes, listen to what they're playing, what he's playing. It's Christian music. So they listened, and Michael looked over, and the guy smiled at Michael and like nodded, like, I know who you are, kind of thing. Like there was like a telepathic, if you will, of communication between the two of them. Anyway, the guy took a break. Michael went and talked to him, and turns out this guy's name is David. He's a Christian. He's Jewish, but he believes Jesus is Messiah. And he figured that was where God had him, where he could play and use his talent of music to fill the room with worship in in an Orthodox place where there's nothing but Orthodox Jews in there. So they started talking. At the end of that time, before Michael was while he's talking to David, he sees Don get up from the table and walks in the door. And they just greeted each other and hugged each other. And then Michael went over and said, oh, this must be the pastor that my pastor's looking for. And then he said, how did you know? And he goes, I woke up this morning and the Lord told me, go to Jerusalem, go to this coffee house. There'll be someone there you need to meet, you need to see. So neither one of these two guys called each other. Don said, the Lord told me to go to this coffee house to trust that he's going to speak to, I forgot the name of the other person. And then this other pastor wakes up in the morning and says, go to Jerusalem. You're going to see Don there. Just go to this coffee house. Did not communicate. Like I said, this is before cell phones and stuff. So that whole thing was happening in the coffee shop. There's this guy, David, playing Christian music in the coffee shop. He hands Michael a whole bunch before he's leaving. He goes, I've been working on all of these, all this information. It is about David's music, the Kenor he played, why he played it, what he tuned it to. He goes, I've been studying this, and I feel like the Lord told me he's going to bring somebody into my life that will understand, and he will take it to where I couldn't. So he hands Michael all of this paper. Michael doesn't know what to do with it. He brings it home. He tells me all about it. He starts going through it. And that opened up a Pandora's box of him researching and looking, because he said, I know that there's something here. I know that God has something here. He believed with all of his heart that, we carry a song. And when you look at the DNA strand, it looks like a ladder. There have been people that have put that through a machine, and a song comes out. So if we all have separate DNAs, we all have a different song. None of us, like fingerprints, have the same song because our DNA is different. So we've heard of near-death experiences where people have gone into the light. Some people say they draw, and some people have actually been in a place which I believe is heaven. And when they've come back, they've given testimony of everything resonates, everything, it vibrates and it gives off music. When the flowers, there was this one book that I read, and this person died on the operating table, and but he said that he was taken to a place, and butterflies, when they would flap their wings, made music. When there was a breeze, but the breeze was melodic. The flowers sang. The Bible says that if you don't praise me, I'll cause the rocks to cry out. You know, the little stone, the quartz stone in our watches, it has a frequency in it, and it has, which is energy, and it keeps our watches going. Quartz, so rocks have a frequency, they have energy, they move. Everything we have has energy. Everything we are has, everything that we see is held up by the things we cannot see. So going into that and then studying more and more and more about it, Michael started saying, what if I could use frequency? Because it's already, nobody owns frequency. Frequency is already there. There's been all these, all the different frequencies have been around, 417, 396, all, and they've been around, and people have used them for healing for a long, long time. It's mainly in the, like, the Eastern mysticism type circles that have used it for years. But Michael thought, what if I could take that and put music on it that people would really enjoy? Because hearing those frequencies by themselves can be a little bit unnerving, and who can sit there for half an hour and just listen to just a hum or a frequency? But if I could put music that will bring people, not only will heal from at a cellular level, but it'll also bring them up and draw them closer to God. He said, I want to bring the sound of heaven down to earth, on earth as it is in heaven, right? Mm-hmm. He says, the Lord told us, pray like this: our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What if there is music in heaven, if there is sounds, if we are endowed with frequencies, then what if we can get to a place of harmony with frequencies where everything that we have, because everything vibrates at a different frequency in our bodies because of weight and girth, what if music without lyrics, people don't have to understand what's being said, they just have to feel. We're all feelers, right? What if all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't feel anxious anymore. I don't feel hopeless anymore. I feel relaxed. I think I could sleep. So that's where it all started. 2014, he, with a friend of ours who believed in his vision, because we were like, okay, what do we do with all of this, and how do we make it happen? And the Lord brought people into our lives, and in 2014 we launched Wholetones. And I really believe, as my husband believed, that this is, that not only just this music, but frequency in and of itself is the future. It's the future of healing. It's the future of medicine. They're using frequency even for destructive purposes, right? For weaponry. What if we can fight back, if you will, with music to bring healing, to bring, there's so much chaos in the world right now, so much anger, so much fear. What if we could use music? What if we could use frequency to bring a sense of calm, a sense of peace? So that's where we were. If we could help a little bit, if we could just do one thing, then let's do it with music. And remember that song a long, long time ago, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, the Coca-Cola. Yeah. Yeah. And yet all of these people on the hilltop holding hands singing. It is possible. It is possible to cross generational and racial barriers and religion and all of that. We're trying to be divided right now. That's the end goal of the enemy, of the devil, of darkness, whatever it is. We are in a fight for good and evil right now. I believe it. And people that you wouldn't even imagine that would associate what we're going through as evil and good. They're saying that's evil and good. It's beyond just racial divide or political divide. It's beyond that. It is good and evil, darkness and light, and light and darkness are frequencies. So what
Well,
if we could do it?
and I think, Lillian, that is obviously one, I was attracted to the story as
Mhm.
we've been talking, as we've met, and then as I have incorporated into my daily rituals and my weekly rituals, and then seeing already the part of with the wellness center and the counseling component that we're offering to our clients, I'm beginning to see some of that as well. And so uh, I know that we have to get ready to
Yeah.
end this part one. We have a lot more to talk about. I would love for us to set up a time for a part two, and probably we're going to need a part three and part four because we got lots of things for us to talk about. So right now, though, if you could let us know what's the best way if someone wanted to do their own research, wanted to find out more about not only what Michael's work was, but what you guys are doing now with Wholetones. What's the best way for them to get a hold of? What's the best way to find out more information?
Well, the best way to do it is just to go on our website. It's www.wholetones.com. And and everything, like all of the music. We have music that helps pets, and especially now that we're going to go into 4th of July with fireworks, and here in Florida we're going into storm season. Um, Animals can get really anxious, so our music helps animals even. So it's been very does very well with animals. So we have music for pets. We have music for um, oh my gosh, the word just went out, for meditation. I'm sorry, meditation. We have nature plays. We have everything. They can go on there and see our whole everything that we've got. And I would tell people, read the book. Michael's book. It's an easy read. It's I got it right here. So this is the book. It is really easy read. And he talks about everything, the stories that I told about Israel, and things that happened in World War II that changed the tuning of the world, and why we as a country embraced a certain tuning that is not a favorable tuning. And that's another thing we want to, with my connection with musicians, to see if we could somehow start changing their minds and the things to change to a more favorable tuning, which is not 441, it's 444, is I mean 440. 440 is not a favorable one. 444 is the favorable one. But anyway, so all of that is in the book. And and right now, for your viewers, for your listeners, we are offering discount. And if they just put in www.wholetones.com/Polky, because that's what we have to use that for a code, then you guys will get a discount on anything on our website. So that's the easiest way.
Awesome. Well, Lillian, thank you so much. Every time we have a conversation, I could go on for another, another hour or so. But thank you very much for being on, sharing your story. And I know that we didn't get into it today, but you even faced some adversity this morning to even getting on, including a power outage and a handful of other things. So again, thank you for being courageous to come on and sharing your story and sharing some of Michael's story as well.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you, Kevin. It's been awesome being here with you. And you made it very easy. I was nervous, but you
yeah.
made it easy.
You did awesome. So for anyone that, and I would very much invite anybody who's listening today to check out either on YouTube, or check out on Wholetones on YouTube, or go to the website again, WHOLETONES.com, and I think it'll be a very much an enjoyable experience.
And
Again,
Michael has lots of videos on he had a channel YouTube channel. So you could put Michael Tyrrell, and Tyrrell is spelled Tyrrell. can check out videos that he has, and he talks about frequency. He talks about, and out of his pastor's heart, there's some really good messages that are encouraging, and everything points to frequency. Everything points to God. Everything points to peace. So it's good.
Thank you. As always, I appreciate everyone being here today and look forward to being with you next week.